Hello, everyone. Welcome to Put Me in Coaching Live. I'm super excited to be coming to you from my home office and to talk about tonight's topic, which is Put Me in Coach. So, how do we really capitalize on one, our momentum, but two, our motivation? And how do we keep that motivation, even though we all know motivation is fleeting? How do we keep the motivation as well as continue to reach our goals? I want us to really think about how are we crushing our goals, okay? And I think this is a really important topic because there are so many times where we feel like I've got these goals, but I'm just not sure exactly how to achieve them. So I need that motivation. I need X, Y, and Z, right? So that's what we're going to talk about tonight is the Put Me in Coach. We talked about the U factor a couple weeks ago, and I'm glad to be back. I was out for a couple of weeks and having some technical difficulties with the computer tonight. So that's okay though. We make it happen and we keep it moving, right? So we talk about in our health journeys, right? We talk about how important it is to set goals and put deadlines on those goals because it gives us something to work for. And I think this is something that Laura has done a phenomenal job of. She set a goal of 50 things to do before she turns 50 and she is crushing those goals. I love seeing her on Facebook post, "Hey, I checked another one off the list," which she just did this weekend. And it wasn't necessarily a health and fitness goal, but what it was a life goal, which translates into really being able to continue to keep that mental health as high as possible, right? We want to keep our mental health and our just the way we're thinking about things, right? We've got to keep our mindset elevated. And so personal development is just as important as eating right and exercising, okay? Because when we get into those slumps where we feel like, okay, yeah, I've been eating right, I've been exercising, but something's just not clicking, sometimes that factor, that missing piece, is that unshakable mental fitness. Okay, so we're going to talk a lot tonight about how do we crush our goals in a sense of not only just setting them and not only just going through the motions, but behaviorally, how do we crush those goals? All right, and there's three elements to making sure that we are crushing the goals, right? We've got our opt in, we've got our 7-step signature system, which is the opt in. We've got to have the education, we've got to have the accountability, we've got to have the tracking, we've got to have the behavior modification, we've got to celebrate our wins. That's the recognition piece. And then we have to be able to give back. But how do we set a goal and then maintain progress towards that goal, right? When you're in a coaching program, it's really important to be very honest with yourself and be very honest with your coach about, hey, here's where I'm at, here's where I want to be, and kind of look at it and figure out what is it that I'm doing or not doing? How am I going to get where I want to be? Okay, so there's three key things you've got to have. And we're going to break those three things down tonight because that's how we can look at our coach or look at your accountability partner. You can say, "Put me in, coach. I am ready." Right? We all know that song, "Put me in, coach. I'm ready to play." And that's really the whole basis of leveling up and really reaching and attaining and exceeding our goals. Okay. So, first up, you've got to be coachable. You got to be coachable. Okay. So the opt in is there. You've got to have the opt in. Okay. But the second thing is the burning desire. Okay. The burning desire. And then the third thing is a willingness to work. Okay. And I've learned this from several of my mentors. All right. You've got to be coachable. If you are going to negate every single thing that you hear or listen to, I'm not saying don't question it. It's important to question, but you've got to be able to be coachable and take that feedback and not take it personally and just apply it. Okay. Because there's a reason you're asking the experts, there's a reason you're looking for the information. Okay. So you've got to be coachable. All right. The next thing after being coachable, you've got to have a burning desire. And this one I want to spend a little bit of time on. Okay. So grab a piece of paper if you didn't already. I meant to mention that at the beginning. But this one, the burning desire, you've got to have a strong, unshakable reason why you are doing something. Okay. Why do you want to achieve a specific goal? Okay. So, what is your why? And again, this goes back to making sure your why is in alignment with your core values. Okay. So, if you don't know what your core values are, you've got to do a little bit of work to figure out your core values. All right. So, it's really important to make sure that your core values are in alignment with your why. Okay, because let's say your why is you want to be able to spend more time with family and want to have that quality time and be able to play with your kids, play with your grandkids, and have the energy to keep up. But then family isn't a core value of yours. See how that just doesn't align? Okay. But let's say family is a core value of yours. Okay. I know it definitely was for my dad as he was getting healthy and going through his health journey. And his main reason why was to be a great example for me. Okay. Because this is before I started my health journey. And I was always tired. I was just, it was to the point where it was like I had to do something. And so he wanted to be a great role model, a great example for me. And so that was a strong why for him. But then once I was able to lose that 113 pounds, guess what? He had to get a different why because being a good example for me was no longer a strong enough why because one, he already was. Two, I'm healthy. Okay. So he doesn't need to motivate me to get and stay healthy anymore. So he had to find a different why. And a lot of times that's where we can start to see ourselves get a little off track from our goals because our why is not strong enough and it doesn't align with our core values enough to keep us motivated and to keep us disciplined. We say discipline is choosing between what you want now and what you want most. Okay. So that's what's really important to be able to keep that discipline going. And when that why is stronger than any excuse you can make, that's when you will really start to see the changes. Okay. Maybe, so if you're like me, I didn't love the numbers I was seeing on the doctor's reports, right? And so I said, I have got to do something. I've got to do something. And it was like, I'm sitting over here watching my dad get incredibly healthy. And guess what? Those core values started to align because I wanted to be healthy. I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. I was tired. A lot of you have heard my story, but my feet just hurt all the time. By the end of my workday, I couldn't even wear my shoes home because my feet just hurt so bad. And within a matter of weeks, being able to get that inflammation under control, I started to have less pain. Then I had more energy and I was no longer sick and tired. I was getting healthier and healthier and healthier. Okay. And I could just see this transformation. And then you start to get the comments. Oh my gosh, you're glowing. How do you have so much energy? This is awesome. You look great. Wow. I can see the changes that are happening. And then you go back to the doctor and the numbers start to get better. And you're like, okay, I'm really doing this. I'm really taking control. And for the first time, I feel like I'm living life on my terms. I get to decide what happens. And so that health was a core value of mine. And this goes back to before college, right? I always was an athlete in school. And so health was always a core value, but I got to college and we all know not only just the freshman 15, but then you get out of college and I came out of out of college right in the middle of the recession, right? And so it was no longer you go to college, you get a dream job and then that's how it is, right? It was you go to college and then oh my gosh, you're out of college working at a job that doesn't even require a college degree and you're just working to make ends meet and you're working tons and tons of hours, right? That's no longer my story, right? I get to help people for a living. I get to help people in so many ways protect and empower themselves and their families and their businesses. And it's exciting. But that wasn't my original story. So you see, my why has had to shift because not only am I healthy, but now I get to give back. I get to offer a solution on so many different levels on how to really protect and empower. And so you see, my why has shifted over time. Okay. And that's what I want to challenge you. I want you to get very clear on what is your why. Why are you setting the goals that you're setting? Okay. Whether it's for weight loss, whether it's for weight maintaining, whether it's to maintain your health numbers, whether it's to increase your finances, increase your relationships, whatever those goals are, where you are trying to get healthy as it relates to your mental fitness, your physical fitness, your spiritual fitness, relationship fitness, all of those buckets, right? We talk about the buckets. All right. So I think it's really important that you get crystal clear on your why. That is your burning desire as to why you want to achieve the goals you want to achieve. Okay. And put your why down on a piece of paper. I have my why on the back of the screen of my cell phone. Okay. Canva is a beautiful app and you can design so many cool different graphics on there. And so what I've done is I've made it to where I have something that I can look at every day that reminds me of my why. So that when I roll over in the morning and my alarm's going off, and maybe I don't necessarily want to go to the gym, I'm reminded of my why. I'm reminded of why I do it. I'm reminded that, hey, I've got to set a good example and I love helping people. And I know that if I don't go to the gym, I'm not going to feel my best self. And so I'm not going to be able to show up the way I want to show up for people that day. And then instantly it's like, okay, I'm up, I'm going, let's get it. Okay. So have that burning desire. Really make sure your why is anchored in a core value or values. Okay. So the burning desire. So you've got to be coachable. That's the number one. You've got to be able to accept feedback. You've got to be able to say, hey, this is where maybe I went a little bit wrong, but I can course correct. I can take it one step further. I can apply the corrections and I can make it better. You've got to have the burning desire. And then the last one, you have to have a willingness to work. Okay. You can have all the burning desire in the world. You can be as coachable as possible. But if you're not willing to put in the work, then your goals are going to remain just that. They're going to remain goals. They're going to remain dreams. They're going to remain hopes. You've got to have the willingness to work. Now, does that mean you have to go all out every single day? No, that's not realistic. Okay. But what it does mean is you have to be willing to take the feedback that you're getting from being coachable. You have to be willing to dig deep and figure out what that burning desire is. And then you have to be willing to apply the work necessary to get where you want to be. All right, I want to say that again. You've got to be willing to apply and go out and do the work necessary to achieve the goals. You can have a goal of running a mile in under 10 minutes. But if you never go run a mile, you're never going to run a mile in under 10 minutes. Okay. That doesn't mean you're going to start at running a mile in under 10 minutes, right? You may start running a mile in 20 minutes. That's amazing. You got to start. It's better than the mile that you didn't do. Okay, so you start at 20. And then the next day, maybe you try to get it to under 20. And you work and you just slowly increase. Well, in this case, you decrease your time until then you're at that under 10-minute mile. Okay, that used to be a goal of mine. That's a goal I achieved. Okay, right now, we all know I do powerlifting, and so I have specific goals for my upcoming meet. Well, if I'm not willing to go and do the workouts necessary to get me to those goals, I can forget it. It's not going to happen. Okay. Sometimes with my schedule, I have to get a little creative, and sometimes they don't happen exactly when I would want them to, but I still get them in. I don't miss workouts. Okay. And if I do, it's very rare. All right. And so that's what I mean by having that willingness to work. Okay. You've got to have goals, gives you clarity, but you have to be willing to apply what's necessary to achieve them. All right. And that's where the concept of Put Me in Coach really comes into play, right? The title of our class tonight, Put Me in Coach, I'm ready. Okay. I have those three things. So write them down: coachable, a burning desire, and a willingness to work. But you've got to have that first one, that coachability, right? If you are not coachable, I always say athletes make the best students because they're so used to being coached, and the best employees, really. And even one of my the places that I still consult with, they look to hire athletes specifically because of that, because of the coachability. And I think that's an important factor, because if you take someone who has been an athlete all their life, or in marching band, or in some sort of organized something where it leads to performance or something like that, right? You take someone that's had that, and then you take someone who's never been involved in anything. Well, who's likely to be a little bit more coachable? It doesn't always work out that way, but a lot of times it does, because they're so used to being coached. All right. So it's the very first thing you've got to have. And you have to ask yourself, am I coachable? Am I willing to apply the things that I get from the experts that are giving me the information? Excellent. If you are, okay, then you go to the next step. Do I have the burning desire? Do I want to do this? And why do I want to do this? Why is it important to me to achieve this goal? Is it important because you want to spend more time with family? Is it important because you want to be able to help other family members? Is it important because you have a big event coming up and you want to make sure you feel your best? Why is it important? Is it important because you care about your health? All right. So that's the second one, that burning desire. And then the third one, am I willing to do whatever it takes to get there? Am I willing to make the effort? Doesn't mean you have to be perfect. You're not going to be perfect, right? Progress is progress, right? Better is better. We say that all the time. You just have to trust the process. Am I willing to trust the process? Am I willing to work for what I want? And when you have those three things, there is nothing that can stop you from achieving your goals. And that's how you create that mental fitness that gets you through those times where the motivation might be a little fleeting, the inspiration might be a little dry. But that's where the discipline kicks in, because you're coachable, you've got a burning desire, and you are willing to do what it takes. That's where the discipline comes in. All right. So I am so excited to be here. Hoping I can get my computer up and running next week, but we will be back here same time next week, same channel. And I will see you all then. And in the meantime, I will see you on your coaching sessions and in text messages. And I look forward to continuing to support your success. And I am so proud of each and every one of you for showing up and continuing to choose yourself tonight and always. All right. So I'm wishing you a super successful week. And I'm going to sign off by saying, put me in, coach. I'm ready to protect and empower. All right. Have a great night, everyone. I will see you back here, same time, same place next Sunday. And in the meantime, I'll see you on text messages and in your coaching sessions. Have a great night, everybody. Let's go make it a successful week and put us in, coach. We're ready to play. Bye, everyone.